Hey,
Here it is again. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
hello, hello, hello.
We are
Beautiful day.
Dave and Laura Butler of Work Life Consulting. And what we do, in case you're interested and why we're with you every week, is we customize and create and develop online coaching programs that help individuals, teams, and leaders achieve greater fulfillment in their work and their life. So
Perfect.
today, we're going to be talking about one of your favorite topics.
How unidentified emotions block the view.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's two sides to it. What's an unidentified emotion and what view is being blocked? So if I started with the unidentified emotions, probably one of the most common versions is what we used to call FFA, free-floating anxiety. Not sure why I feel anxious. I just feel anxious. I'm not sure what I'm worried about. Vague. And all it does is just get in my way. It blocks my view of being able to see what's going on very clearly because I see everything with that air of anxiety. So the work becomes being able to figure out what that anxiety is about. We talk a lot about self-awareness being the first step of EQ. All that stuff sounds great, very academic. But when you come down to it, how do I understand the emotions I'm having if I can't see them? If I can't identify them, if I don't know what it is?
And also, our favorite quote, we don't see the world the way it is, but rather as we are. So if we start off and if we can't really see or feel what our emotions are at the current moment, we don't see that there's something else out there that
Right.
might be affecting us.
Right. Well, I had a discussion the other day with a friend. He was talking about how upset he was about this, and he doesn't know why. If he feels like he wants to go on, should he still be doing what he's doing? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? And it suddenly occurred to me. I said, "Well, I think you're talking about you don't feel very safe, do you?" He said, "Oh my God, that's it. That's what it is." Okay, so we named it safety, need for safety. Now, let's take first step, second step, third step. Let's start getting. But as long as it was not identified, it blocked his view completely. He couldn't see what to do next.
Yeah, and it's that self-awareness, which sounds kind of theory, and okay, and then, so what? I'm
I'm aware. I'm aware. I'm a man, and I'm old, and I feel tired. Okay, here's my awareness.
But it is the foundation of acquiring that emotional mastery next step, and it's also with awareness gives us the power to make the real choices that we need to.
Exactly. How can you really make real choices if you're not really aware of what it is that's going on? If it's free floating anxiety, it's going to be free floating choices. The answers will be just as free floating as the anxiety was. So it actually compounds itself because it becomes even worse.
So if you're joining us on the recording, thank you, first of all. What are some of the emotional barriers you might have, around, like our colleague who said it was, I just don't feel safe in my surroundings. And and I think it's also, we don't feel safe sometimes with our own decision. If we choose something, is that going to be the right way to go? And then you get self-doubt.
Right. That's the big one. Self-doubt starts kicking in. And of course, part of being safe is not that I know that I'm always going to make the right choice. Feeling safe is being in an environment where I know it's okay for me to make a mistake and learn and correct it. But if I feel like I'm under the gun and I've got to be perfect all the time, that's definitely going to cause some free-floating anxiety, and I'm just going to clam up, and I probably won't be at my best. I won't be creative. I'll be taking little mini steps instead of really addressing the issue.
Exactly. But if you're listening live, we are Dave and on the recording, we're Dave and Laura Butler of Work Life Consulting, and we're here every week to talk about topics that are important to you and what we hear in our practice. We design and deliver and customize coaching programs for individuals, teams, and organizations around, and it seems like the umbrella is around this whole topic of emotional mastery, helping leaders create organizations that are safe, really.
Yeah.
But I think too, this is an interesting discussion because we don't equate emotions with intelligence. So we hear, since the 90s, there's been this emotional intelligence, the need for it, the 5 pieces to the framework, yada, yada, yada. But we are so used to the IQ piece, the component versus the emotional component. But when you look at it, half a century ago, rational thought was the focus.
Yeah, we know because we were there half a century ago.
Absolutely. And what happened? You shared emotions.
Oh, you would be looked at as being unreliable. You'd be looked at as being weird. If you brought up the topic of emotion, most people would look the other way because it was actively discussed that emotions are unreliable. You can't trust emotions. Well, it's not really that the issue was incorrectly stated. It's not that we can't trust your emotions. It's we don't know how to use the emotions. We don't know how to use them to be able to identify what's going on. And all of us have gut instincts. We all have, gut feeling about something. We just say, I don't know what it is. I think that's the right way to go. So that's intuition. That's a little bit higher level than emotions. But emotions are not necessarily unreliable. They're only unreliable if they're out of control, if you don't know what they are. But if you can name them and you can use them and you can use them to help guide you, then they play an extremely important role, especially in relationships, because other people have emotions. They may not have the same as you, but if they feel heard and they feel safe about it, now we have the opportunity to have a more open and trusting exchange. So trust is
why we love the Berkman method so much is because of that link that identifies what your need is, can help you understand what your emotions are. So in my case, my need is time on my own to recharge. Right. If I don't get that, what's going to happen? I'm going to be overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed. So if I can utilize that to say, oh, there that is again, give myself the, either there are a couple of things I can do. I can choose to either meditate or breathe or step away, or maybe I want to go the exact opposite route and go exercise. So I have options. Right. I think when we get in that emotional shutdown, the options are not clear.
Well, the view is blocked. I don't see that I have options.
Yeah.
All I see is I'm about to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, even though there's no saber-toothed tiger around. My snake brain kicks in. Next thing I know, I'm on the run. I don't even know what I'm running from.
I think we talk about being emotionally smart, but basically what we really need to become is sort of the master of our emotions.
Right.
And help others do the same. So that's why we call our soon to launch again program Emotional Mastery, because it is the key to your leadership impact.
Right. And being emotionally smart is the first step along the way to becoming an emotionally masterful person. Meaning you can be in just about any situation, everybody else's hair is on fire, and you're still calm and collected. And that's part of being leadership, is you need to be able to withstand those stresses without losing control on any level of leadership, but self-leadership as well.
And so one of the tools that we have in our toolbox is the mindset report. And I think this one on social acuity is really what's spot on and what we're talking about. The extent to which you have realistic expectations of other people's behaviors and attitudes. An interesting perspective.
Well, it's also an important word there, realistic.
That's right.
Now, what's realistic to me may not be realistic to you. So once again, we have to be careful about how we define our terms. But if we're doing it together, as opposed to my assumption is, my expectation is one thing, and it shows up as something different, then I'm going to be confused. If I can do it in the clear light of day, so to speak, if we can have it be open and transparent, we can discuss what's going on, then we have a more realistic expectation of our own behavior as well as other people's behaviors and attitudes.
Exactly.
I think it's when it shows up out of the blue, we don't know what's going on.
I think what's necessary is that people have the tools to manage emotions better. And certainly if you have insights into your own starting point of self-awareness, you can then share with others and appreciate the difference. It's all, I was listening, a colleague shared Harvard Business Review podcast with me the other day, and the professor was talking about what we talk about all the time, which is having diversity of thought available,
Right.
in our mindset. So I think that's really the key.
Well, I would pick up on this tools idea here. How many tools do we have to help support our IQ? Software programs, calculators, planning tools. There's all kinds of stuff we have to use to help our IQ. Where's the EQ tools? What are they? How do we use them? Some of the things that we explore and touch on in our emotional mastery course. But this is what's really important, is to realize there are tools to help, such as the Berkman, which is a wonderful assessment tool. But there are tools that have to do with interrelations, good models for being able to have crucial conversations, for example, difficult conversations, giving feedback. You don't have to just be wandering around doing it with no help. There are tools to help you focus yourself and understand what it is that you're trying to get across to the other person.
Well, what I find interesting is when we talk about, by the way, our course is going to be opening up registration the week of April 11th. When we talk about this course, I get, not so much a few years ago, but now I'm getting, oh boy, is that needed.
Yeah. Boy, you sure, that would sure help me. That's the kind of stuff that I hear, it's like, oh boy, all this would be great if it wasn't for the people.
Why do you think it's, it's a rhetorical question, but why do you think we get that response now?
Well, I think everybody's, struggling with stress for one thing.
Yeah.
And they don't understand why. Again, we have to name the stress. Free-floating anxiety is another word for free-floating stress. I'm not even sure what I'm stressed about. And I assume everybody's stressed about the same things as I am. So there's a lot of misassumptions right to get started. But I think we get that response from people because they're exhausted. They're tired of trying to carry the weight of the stress, trying to still make things happen, trying to get their work done. Coming out of this couple of years of this pandemic, starting to move into a world that seems in chaos again. There's just so much stress. Just the idea that there's some way that you can help me bear that load with more strength and more focus, I think is just so relieving to people. I think that it's even possible. That's why people, respond the way they do when you're coaching them. It's really more about holding a mirror up and giving them an opportunity to see what their options are. I think people, the more stressed you are, the narrower your view becomes. Pretty soon, this is all the options. I've got this many options. That's all I've got, as opposed to being able to see and say, "Wow, look at how many options I have. I have so many different options."
Yeah,
it's empowering.
Well, I think we'll be continuing with this conversation because continue with the idea of giving people the opportunity to think about this, especially as we move into opening up the program again. But as we leave you today, and let us know in the comments if you have a particular topic that you would like us to cover.
Tell us about your free-floating anxiety.
Exactly. And I think, that Jeff shares something that is pretty interesting here is don't trust decisions when emotions take over. That, that is a key piece of emotional mastery is don't pull any triggers while you're in the state of emotional hijack.
Right.
Right.
It's out of control emotions. That's the problem. It's not emotions at all, of any type.
Right, exactly. So thank you for that. And we'll leave with our friend Elliot Lewis, elliotlewis.com, who always sends us off with a good message. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.